you want some tips on how to save money and make life easier for yourself, stay tuned. If you've just spent a considerable amount of money on a pair of safety goggles, you don't want them destroyed when they're being thrown around in a pack or rucksack. One answer is to find a piece of drainage pipe where the glasses fit inside. If you can do this, cut the pipe to length and then find a suitable cap and glue it on one end. Having secured the cap with glue, you can make it even more secure by binding it with adhesive tape. It's not totally necessary to have a top on the tube when it's stowed away. If you're worried, find a plastic or metal lid that's a friction fit. If you can't, try using an old sock. That works as well. One way to hold an odd-shaped object when you're using a workmate or a woodworking bench is to get a loop of paracord, pass it through the hole around the object and then pull it firm and tight by putting your foot through the loop. This keeps the object secure enough to work on. It's been grey, damp and cold all day. However, this does give you the opportunity to test out your map reading skills in low visibility, see if you can find usable firewood, and also see how dexterous you are in cold temperatures with no gloves. Regardless of the conditions, you can get out there and use them to your advantage. Plastic boxes with hinges are useful, but the hinges are the weak part, especially if they're not a real hinge but just a thinner piece of plastic. Eventually they fail, they break and they're difficult to repair. In order to prevent this happening, or at least extend the life of the hinges, it's a good idea to use some good quality tape and stick it down on the moving part before they snap. Otherwise, when they do snap, it's virtually impossible to stick them in place with the correct tension. So you've lost the hinge and then you've lost the box. If you're walking in an urban environment, it's fairly easy to keep track of distance. It's not so easy to keep track of time if you've got the dog, because the dog's got to stop and sniff and have a wee. However, in the countryside, it's much more difficult. You need to keep an accurate record of distance travelled and time. Keeping track of time is relatively easy as you use a watch rather than a battery-dependent smartphone. Keeping a record of distance can also be done using pacing and ranger beads. An extremely cheap alternative to ranger beads is to use a piece of knotted cord. Each time you've counted 100 paces, you take one knot, either through your fingers or through a buttonhole if you've got one. When you've counted the appropriate number of knots, you can then transfer a coin or stone from one pocket to another. This works just as well as ranger beads and costs you next to nothing. There are times when you need hearing protection. Big ear defenders are good, but they're bulky and quite often it's difficult to wear them when wearing a hat. So one answer is to use foam insert earplugs. These two are good, but they have the annoying habit of falling out when you least need them to. You can use them when you're sleeping, unlike headphones, but again, they'll come out when you least need them to. If you lose one, then you've got a problem. One answer is to use earplugs that are on a string. To prevent losing your stringed earplugs in periods of high activity, or even when you're lazing around, it's a good idea to put them through an intentional or accidental loop, such as the cord holding down the hood on your jacket, or a buttonhole, or even the loop on the back of a boonie hat. Not only will this save you losing your earplugs, it'll also save you money. Don't be afraid to get out and test your kit, and test yourself for the time when you might have to do it for real. Thank you for watching, commenting, and hopefully subscribing.